Hey everyone, today is going to start a series of lectures on nationalism and territorial expansion in the United States. That is me and Martin Van Buren over there. And just a little background, Van Buren's presidency was hampered by the Panic of 1837 and tensions with England. By 1840, the government established an independent treasury for the deposit of federal funds. If you remember back, Jackson was deeply intertwined with the banking system, had very strong feelings about the bank, and by this time, most of the banks that were supported by Jackson, including the state banks, had failed, and Democrats were really reluctant to support another bank of the United States. The independent treasury was the compromise. The independent treasury, while most likely not as effective as another bank of the United States, might have actually been, it allowed for adequate control over federal finances. We also have some tensions growing with England at the time relating to some debt, copyright, and boundary issues. And this resulted in some pretty strong anti-English feelings. But war was avoided despite the English provoking the United States. So, a growing issue in the democratic spirit of the age of Jackson was the abolition of slavery. I'm just introducing this now. I know we're going to be talking about it more in class, but this is going to eventually become the major cause and issue that people take to task in the United States government, essentially causing the Civil War. So Congress was receiving many petitions to abolish slavery and the slave trade. And in 1836, Southerners in the House, led by John Calhoun, got the leadership to adopt a rule effectively ending the debate on abolition. And this gag rule was renewed yearly until 1844, and slavery would really become this major issue, as I just said, in the 1850s. So the election of 1840, during this time the Whigs nominated William Henry Harrison, who was a war hero with no political experience, and they also nominated John Tyler, Democrat supporting states' rights, who went against Jackson over the issue of nullification in 1832 to 1833. They won in a non-issue campaign, and this was based primarily on hype and personality. The Whigs' chant during this election was Tippecanoe and Tyler too, because Harrison had defeated Chief Tecumseh at the Battle of Tippecanoe in 1811. During this election, they held parades and used slogans. They had campaign hats and torches. This is very reminiscent of some political campaigns to come. And Van Buren could not overcome the effects of the Panic of 1837. He actually suffered a horrible loss here, with 234 electoral votes going to Harrison and Tyler and only 60 going to Van Buren. Van Buren only won 7 of the 26 states currently in existence at the time. And there I am with William Henry Harrison. So, shortly after taking office, President Harrison dies of pneumonia, and John Tyler succeeds him, being the first vice president in U.S. history to do so. But because Tyler had been put on the Whig ticket to gain Southern votes, and because his sentiments were with the Democrats, his 4 years in office were generally not productive for the Whigs. They wanted to establish a new Bank of the United States, but Tyler vetoed the bills twice. And as a result, the Whig members of his cabinet resigned. And Henry Clay was the most prominent Whig to resign from the House of Representatives. And he did so largely to prepare for his campaign for the presidency in 1844. The most important achievement of Tyler's presidency was the signing of the Webster-Ashburton Treaty with Great Britain, which finally set up the U.S.-Canada border from Maine to Lake of the Woods in Minnesota. An interesting development in Tyler's presidency has to do with suffrage in Rhode Island. The Constitution of Rhode Island was the charter that had been issued by King Charles II in 1663, and the charter greatly restricted the suffrage in the state. So in 1842, those who were disqualified from voting wrote a new charter or constitution and put that into operation. This gave the state two functioning governments, and the new government included the right to universal male suffrage. Tyler was prepared to use federal troops to support the old government because of Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, which upheld the validity of those charters. The new government collapsed, but in 1843, a new state constitution was written extending the suffrage, as was being done in many states at this time. This incident really illustrates Tyler's strict construction and understanding of the Constitution, even if it went against the program, and in this case, the extension of suffrage, to all males supported by the Democrats.